The unravelling of the London peace talks on Ukraine, this is a moment of diplomatic faltering, but not necessarily of failure. On April the 23rd, a summit once billed as a decisive moment has degenerated into a closed door, lower level gathering, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio's abrupt withdrawal and the conspicuous absence of senior Russian negotiators laid bare the fragility of this process. But to dismiss the talks entirely would be to misunderstand the purpose and the potential of basic diplomacy. In the media, we tend to think, and YouTube and social media tends to think of negotiations as some sort of process towards a solution. They are, but they are precisely that process. So simply because no solution is discovered in one set of talks doesn't mean those talks have been useless. It means those talks have isolated areas where further talks can be developed. And the settings of these talks was already complex, marred by the Trump administration's final ceasefire proposal. It included the de jure recognition of Russian sovereignty over Crimea and the de facto control of parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. And Ukraine's President Zelensky rightly rejected a lot of this. One cannot ask a country to legalize the theft of its own territory in the name of granting peace. Yet Trump's camp appears convinced that this final offer is a pragmatic endpoint rather than a surrender in formal attire. This American proposal contradicts Ukraine's fundamental red lines and international law. And it also misjudges the emotional and the historical weight of Crimea, annexed in 2014, occupied but never accepted. No democratic Ukrainian president can yield it and survive politically or morally. Now, there may be ways round this problem, and those ways need to be explored. And a grown-up discussion would be doing that. I don't think Trump and his cronies in the White House, in their urgency to secure a peace within 24 hours, have actually thought in a serious and contextual way. Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Sverdenko clarified Kyiv's stance that they are ready to negotiate, not surrender. There can be no deal that allows Russia to regroup and then return stronger, and that's precisely what this proposal risks doing. And it risks giving Russia, recognizing Russia's appallingly illegal annexation of the 4 districts, as well as Crimea. So we have to pause and examine why continue to talk if the proposals are so unbalanced, because talking, even when doomed to failing to get a solution, is a tool of exposure. And talks like these show the international community where the lines are drawn. They define the art of the possible. They reveal what peace might require and what it must never demand. The absence of Russia's real negotiators is telling. Moscow has not abandoned maximalist aims. It still wants NATO out. It wants Ukrainian neutrality enshrined and Kyiv disarmed. But publicly it entertains talks as a gesture, especially useful to impress the one man it now counts with unguarded enthusiasm, Donald Trump. President Trump, meanwhile, is playing a familiar tune. He once said he'd end the war in 24 hours. That claim has aged poorly. Now he threatens to take a pass. I think his vows are wrong. On Ukraine, if no progress is made in days, it's more theatre than threat, a performance for domestic consumption with real-world consequences. Indeed, the credibility of US leadership has taken a hit. If you say something and then you don't follow through, if you say something and you don't mean it, if you say something in an election and then you aren't able to do it when reality bites, you look stupid. Trump looks stupid. Rubio's absence and the demotion of the US delegation, now headed by General Keith Kellogg, send a signal to both allies and adversaries that America's commitment is no longer steady. It's like bargaining in a basement auction, and yet there's a residual value still to the process. First, it helps to clarify positions. Europe and Ukraine remain aligned. There shall be no recognition of Russian land grabs. Second, it provides a platform for alternative ideas such as European-led peacekeeping missions already floated and not ruled out by the US. Third, it may prompt new security guarantees and reconstruction frameworks, discussions already beginning on the margins of the summit. If Trump wishes to withdraw, Europe must prepare to fill the vacuum. As Ben Wallace said, we're a wealthy bloc. We must now act like one. Let's not forget the human dimension. In Kharkiv, in Sumy, in Odessa, cities hit by Russian bombs, people still hope democracy might one day save them and end the war. The veteran paratrooper Mykola Ovcharenko, who once saved Russian comrades in Afghanistan, now has a son fighting against those comrades' children. His museum in Kharkiv, once devoted to shared sacrifice, now tells the story of betrayal. And one has to hope that at some point that betrayal will turn again to friendship. In such a world, peace talks are more than political rituals. They're acts of memory, acts of survival, and sometimes acts of defiance, but also potentially acts that forge together friendships lost. So let the lower level talks proceed, by all means. Let there be more failed meetings, more rejected proposals, more awkward silences. Between those silences, truths are revealed. And one truth remains: Ukraine will talk, but will not yield.